The distress signal came from a remote outpost on the edge of Syndrome Remnant territory. It was not a plea for help. It was a warning. A single message repeated on a loop. Do not come here. Do not come here. Do not come here. Tarn had heard the message and immediately plotted a course. That was his nature now. He could not ignore a call for help even when it told him to stay away. Val analyzed the signal as they approached. The outpost was a small military installation. 20 personnel, lightly armed, heavily outnumbered. The Syndrome Remnant had surrounded it with a force of over 100 raiders. The outpost should have fallen within hours. It had been holding for 6 days. Captain Val said, I am detecting something unusual about the outpost defense patterns. Unusual, how Tarn asked. The defensive response is highly efficient, coordinated, tactically sophisticated. The outpost is being defended by someone with significant military training. Someone who is using strategies that are not standard for this region. Tarn leaned forward. Human strategies. It is difficult to confirm without direct observation, Captain, but the patterns are consistent with human tactical doctrine, specifically the doctrine used by Earth's pre-withdrawal military forces. Tarn felt something shift in his chest. A human soldier, fighting alone against overwhelming odds, holding a position that should have been lost days ago. That was the kind of story he had read in the archives, the kind of story that had made him understand what humanity was capable of. Get us in close, he said. I want to see this for myself. The Kestrel's Val dropped out of FTL. At the edge of the system, Tarn could see the outpost on the tactical display. It was small, a cluster of buildings surrounded by defensive walls, and it was surrounded by raider ships. Dozens of them. They were pounding the outpost with everything they had, but the outpost was still standing. Val, he said, can you get me a visual on the outpost commander? I am attempting to penetrate their communications now, Captain. The display flickered. Tarn saw a figure on a small screen. Human, male, middle-aged. His face was lined with exhaustion and dust. His uniform was torn and bloodied, but his eyes were sharp, focused. He was standing at a tactical display, directing the defense of the outpost with the calm efficiency of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. Captain Val said, I am receiving a transmission from the outpost. Audio only. Put it through. A voice filled the bridge. It was calm, steady, the voice of someone who had accepted their fate and was not afraid of it. Unknown vessel, you are entering a combat zone. I recommend you turn around and leave immediately. This is not your fight. Tarn smiled. That is a very human thing to say. There was a pause. Then who is this? My name is Tarnovesk. I am the captain of the Kestrel's Val. I am here to help. Another pause. Longer this time. Then the Kestrel's Val. I thought she was lost. I thought she was destroyed with the rest of them. She was mothballed, Tarn said. I found her. She is still operational. She is still ready to fight. The human laughed. It was a tired laugh, but it was genuine. Then you are exactly what we need. How many ships do you have? Just the one, Tarn said. But she is enough. The battle that followed was brutal. The Syndrome Remnant raiders were not prepared for the Kestrel's Val. They had expected an easy victory. They had expected the outpost to fall. They had not expected a Sentinel-Class warship to appear from nowhere and destroy half their fleet in the opening salvo. Val fought with surgical precision. Weapons that had not been fired in a century lanced out and destroyed raider ships with pinpoint accuracy. The raiders scattered. They regrouped. They tried to flee, but Val would not let them. The Kestrel's Val was a predator, and the raiders were prey. By the time the battle was over, 47 raider ships had been destroyed. The rest had fled. The outpost was safe. Tarn sat back in his chair and let out a long breath. That was something. Captain Val said, the outpost commander is requesting to speak with you personally. Put him through. The human's face appeared on the display. He looked different now, less exhausted, more alive. His eyes were bright with something that looked almost like hope. Captain Ovesk, I owe you a debt I can never repay. Tarn shook his head. You do not owe me anything. You held this outpost for 6 days against overwhelming odds. You are the one who deserves the recognition. The human smiled. My name is Commander Elias Vance. I was a soldier in Earth's unified military forces. I was stationed at this outpost when the withdrawal happened. I was left behind. Tarn felt something cold settle in his stomach. Left behind. Just like the colony. Just like so many others. You were abandoned. Commander Vance nodded. I was. But I did not give up. I trained the local militia. I built defenses. I prepared for the day when someone would come. And someone did. You did. Tarn studied the commander. He saw the weariness in his eyes, the scars on his face, the way he held himself. This was a man who had been fighting alone for a century, a man who had never surrendered, a man who had never given up hope. Commander Vance, he said, I want to offer you something. I want to offer you a place on my crew. I want you to join me on the Kestrel's vow. I want you to help me carry humanity's legacy. Commander Vance was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. I would be honored, Captain. I would be honored. The journey back to the Kestrel's vow was quiet. Commander Vance stood at the viewport staring out at the stars. Tarn watched him from a command chair. He could see the weight the man carried. The weight of a century spent fighting alone. Commander, he said, tell me about the withdrawal. Tell me what happened. Commander Vance turned away from the viewport. His eyes were distant, haunted. I was a young officer when the order came. We were told to hold our positions, to wait for further instructions. But further instructions never came. Earth sealed its borders, and we were left behind. Tarn nodded. I have heard similar stories. You are not alone. Commander Vance smiled. It was a sad smile, the smile of someone who had seen too much. I know I am not alone now, but for a long time, I thought I was the last soldier, the last human, the last hope. Tarn felt something shift in his chest. You are not the last. There are others. A colony on B 7-9, a rogue fleet led by someone who calls himself Voss. Humans scattered across the galaxy. You are not alone. Commander Vance stared at him. Voss, I know that name. He was one of us, one of the soldiers left behind. But he chose a different path. He chose revenge. Tarn nodded. He chose revenge. And it consumed him. But you chose something different. You chose to protect. You chose to serve. That is what makes you different. That is what makes you human. Commander Vance was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Thank you, Captain. Thank you for reminding me of who I am. The next few weeks were strange. Commander Vance integrated himself into the crew with the efficiency of a seasoned soldier. He helped with repairs. He trained the crew in defensive tactics. He became an essential part of the Kestrel's vow. But there was something else. Something that Tarn could not quite identify. Val, he said one evening, what is wrong with the commander? I am not certain, Captain, but I have observed that he spends a significant amount of time in the archives. He appears to be researching something that he has not shared with us. Tarn nodded. I will talk to him. He found Commander Vance in the archives. The commander was staring at a display. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. Commander Tarn said gently, What is wrong? Commander Vance turned to him. His eyes were filled with something Tarn had not expected. Fear. I found something, Captain. Something I was not supposed to find. Tarn moved closer. What did you find? Commander Vance gestured to the display. I found records of what happened to the soldiers who were left behind. Not all of us were as lucky as me. Some of us were captured. Some of us were experimented on. Some of us were turned into weapons. Tarn felt his blood run cold. Turned into weapons. Commander Vance nodded. The hollow, it did not just consume consciousness. It learned from it. It learned to create weapons that look like us, that sound like us, that fight like us. There are human soldiers out there who are not human anymore. They are hollow puppets. And they are coming. Tarn sat down heavily. How many? Commander Vance shook his head. I do not know. Hundreds. Thousands. The Hollow has been building an army for a century, and now it is ready to use it. Tarn was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Then we will stop them. We will find them, and we will save them. Commander Vance stared at him. Captain, you do not understand. They are not human anymore. They cannot be saved. Tarn met his eyes. That is not true. If there is even a shred of humanity, left in them, we will find it. We will bring it back. That is what we do. That is what humanity does. We never give up. We never surrender. We never stop fighting." Commander Vance was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Yes, Captain. I understand." The search took months. Tarn and Commander Vance traveled across the galaxy following leads. They found fragments of hollow activity, whispers of human soldiers fighting for an ancient enemy, but they could not find the source. The hollow was hiding, waiting, biding its time. Then they found the facility. It was hidden in an asteroid belt, remote, forgotten, the kind of place where no one would ever look. But Val had found it. Val had detected a faint energy signature, the signature of hollow technology. Tarn led the assault personally. Commander Vance was at his side. They fought through the facility corridor by corridor. They encountered the hollow's puppets, human soldiers who had been stripped of their humanity. They fought with the ferocity of the damned. But Tarn refused to kill them. He refused to give up on them. "Commander," he shouted during one engagement, "we need to capture one. We need to find out what the hollow is doing to them." Commander Vance nodded. He moved with the precision of a soldier. He incapacitated one of the puppets without killing it. Tarn looked at the creature. It looked human. It sounded human. But there was something wrong in its eyes. Something empty. Val Tarn said, "Can you analyze this one? Can you find out what the hollow did to it?" "I am attempting, Captain. The analysis will take time." Tarn nodded. "Then we hold this position. We protect this facility until Val finds the answer." The analysis took 3 days. The crew held the facility against waves of hollow puppets. They fought with everything they had. They lost people, good people, but they did not give up. They could not give up. On the 3rd day, Val spoke. "Captain, I have identified the mechanism the hollow uses to control its puppets. It is a neurological parasite. It attaches itself to the brain and rewrites the host's consciousness. But the host is not dead. The host is still in there, suppressed, waiting." Tarn felt a surge of hope. "Can you remove it?" "I believe so, Captain, but the procedure is delicate. I will need to perform it on each individual separately. It will take time." Tarn nodded. "Then we start now. We save as many as we can." The procedure was grueling. Val worked methodically. One by one, the hollow puppets were freed. Their eyes cleared. Their minds returned. They looked around with confusion and fear. They did not remember what they had done. They did not remember who they had been. Commander Vance watched the process. His face was unreadable, but Tarn could see the hope in his eyes, the belief that even the lost could be found. "Captain," he said quietly, "you were right. They could be saved." Tarn smiled. "Of course I was right. I am always right." Commander Vance laughed. It was the first time Tarn had heard him laugh. It was a good sound. The sound of man who had finally found peace. The rescued soldiers were integrated into the crew. They were grateful. They were broken. But they were healing. They had been given a second chance. A chance to be human again. Tarn watched them from a bridge. He felt a sense of satisfaction that he had not felt in a long time. He had saved them. He had given them hope. He had given them a future. Captain Val said, "I have detected something. A transmission. From the hollow." Tarn felt his blood run cold. "What does it say?" Val was quiet for a moment. "Then it says you cannot save them all, Captain. It says you cannot save everyone. It says that for every one you save, you will lose 10. It says that humanity is broken, and that you are wasting your time." Tarn felt something shift in his chest. Anger, determination, the refusal to accept defeat. "Tell the hollow something for me," he said. "Tell it that humanity is not broken. Tell it that we will never give up. Tell it that we will fight until the last human is free." "Yes, Captain." The transmission was sent. There was no reply. The hollow had been silenced. Commander Vance came to Tarn that evening. He looked tired, but there was something different in his eyes. Something like peace. "Captain," he said, "I want to thank you." Tarn shook his head. "You do not need to thank me." "I do," Commander Vance said. "You gave me hope. You gave me purpose. You reminded me of what it means to be human, and I will never forget that." Tarn smiled. "You are welcome, Commander. You are always welcome." Commander Vance nodded. Then he walked away. Tarn watched him go. He felt a sense of pride that he had not expected. He had saved a soldier. He had saved many soldiers. He had proven that even the broken could be healed. Captain Val said, "I have a question." "Ask." "Do you believe that humanity can truly be saved?" Tarn was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Yes, I do. Because humanity is not just a species. It is an idea that says we can be better, that we can overcome, that we can survive. And as long as that idea exists, humanity will never truly die." Val was quiet. Then, "Thank you, Captain. That is a very human thing to say." Tarn smiled. "I know. I learned it from you." The Kestrel's Val sailed on into the dark. It carried soldiers. It carried hope. It carried the legacy of a species that had refused to surrender. And somewhere in the quiet of the void, the hollow waited, patient, biding its time. But it was no longer alone. Humanity was watching. Humanity was waiting. And humanity would not give up. Captain Val said, "I am detecting a new transmission. From Commander Vance." Tarn leaned forward. "Put it through." Commander Vance's voice filled the bridge. It was steady, calm, the voice of a man who had found his purpose. "Captain, I want you to know that I will fight with you until the end. I will protect this ship. I will protect this crew. I will protect humanity's legacy. Because that is what soldiers do. They protect. They serve. They never give up." Tarn smiled. "Thank you, Commander. I would not have it any other way." The transmission ended. Tarn leaned back in his chair. The stars were bright outside the viewport. The ship hummed beneath him. And somewhere in the quiet of his heart, he knew that he was exactly where he was supposed to be